This is the 2018 Dodge Demon I've been rebuilding for over a year that still doesn't run. And this is the perfectly good Hellcat I'm about to rip the electrical system out of to force it to run. Trust me, I know it sounds f***ing insane. It's not insane, it's perfectly normal. Less than a week ago, I bought this stolen Hellcat from the salvage auction and rebuilt it in half a day for a couple $100 in parts. As wrong as it feels to take apart a car that's this nice, it holds some parts that are absolutely unobtainable. Harnesses specific to the ultra rare combination of electric power steering and a manual transmission. You can't buy them new, you can't find them used, and the brightest people in the Mopar game couldn't find a workaround, so here we are. Now, before you guys show up at the shop with pitchforks and torches, I got a wild idea for this car that doesn't require the parts we're about to steal. Everything's gonna be fine. Then I take on a massive new project, just because it also happened to give me the parts I need for the Demon. I'm not gonna answer that question, you guys already know. So the master plan I've cooked up here is that we're gonna take any piece of wiring, any module, any electrical part whatsoever directly out of the Hellcat and put it right into the Demon. And yeah, I'm well aware this is like the 5th master plan we've had on the Demon. This time though, confidence is at an all-time high. This car's a 2018, the Demon's a 2018. This car's manual, the Demon's manual. This one runs and, well, hopefully. As for how we're going to accomplish this whole swap, any module that I can leave plugged in, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to make this as direct of a swap as I possibly can. In fact, with the dashboard, I just took out the whole unit as one. The screen, the cluster, even the steering column, I left it all attached. That way, when we go to put it in the Demon, there's no room for error. Now, we can be as careful and thorough as we want, but there are some differences we're going to have to account for. The Hellcat has 1 fuel pump, the Demon has 2. There's some option differences. The Hellcat has a subwoofer, but that stuff's all minor in the grand scheme of things. So the electrical systems on these cars are made up of 4 main harnesses. You have the dash harness, which we've already pulled. You have the rear chassis harness, which goes all the way from the rear bumper, which is why we're pulling it off, to the HVAC system, all the way up to the firewall. Then there's the front harness, and then there's the engine harness. I think the best course of action here is going to be to get all the wiring out. We'll lay it out, we'll get the car pushed out of the way, and we can try to slide it all in the Demon. We haven't even made it past the trunk section of the rear chassis harness, and I've already noticed a few differences. One of the major ones, this rear bumper has parking sensors, the Demon doesn't. This module controls the fuel pump. Of course, in this car, there's only 1 of them. And in the Demon, there's 2 of them. Again, that's not the biggest issue. I know there's a workaround. I did decide to start keeping a list on the window of the Demon of all the differences we find. There's those 2, and then there's the fact that this car has an Alpine sound system, and the gray one has a Harman Kardon, which is technically an upgrade. There's still a lot of questions here. Like, is this harness even going to connect to our dual fuel pump assembly? I have a sneaking suspicion that that list on the window is about to get really long. Well, this is certainly the largest harness down. I know this harness looks big and intimidating, but it was pretty easy to remove. Now, the funny part here is I don't think it's that much different from what's in the Demon right now. After getting into it, it looks like most of the manual specific connectors are on the front harness. The main difference in the rear harness are related to these modules. This is the RF hub, and we tried to replace this 3 or 4 times with 3 or 4 different part numbers. We could never get it right on the Demon. Now, on the body control module, they're physically the same, but the software inside is wildly different. I suspect that one of these modules are responsible for the car not starting. The RF hub possibly is causing the no crank. The BCM's probably responsible for the fact that the gauge cluster thinks it's an automatic still. Is there a chance we can install these modules into the Demon as it sits, do a little more wiring, and possibly make it work? Sure. But I am far past the probablys and possibly being able to get that to run. We're forcing it to run. And one thing that's going to aid big time in that is having a functional clutch switch that we don't have to hack into an automatic harness. There's no room for error on this one. It comes right off the clutch switch onto this connector. This connector goes up to the front fuse box, which is also different than the automatics, then onto the ECU to let it know to start. Speaking of the ECU, this is another thing that's completely different, at least internally. Now, we did flash the red eye ECU to manual firmware. Didn't really do us much good though. Now this is where things get kind of tight. I'm at least mildly confident that on the Demon we can pull the engine harness without having to drop the engine, but on this car that has AC and, you know, everything else that a proper Hellcat should have, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. I guess we can consider this somewhat of a science experiment.
That's going to be completely successful.
Wow, okay, being positive for once.
You're a better mechanic working on Mopars than working on Corvettes.
Come on. It's taken me, I don't know if I should admit this. It's taken me 2.5 days to strip this car wire. It's absolutely insane. Is it possible to pull all this without pulling the engine? Yes, I think we're about to prove that. Do I recommend it? No, under no circumstance. Find an excuse, pull your engine, do some maintenance, upgrade it, I don't know. I just didn't want to take this car apart further than I had to because I don't know exactly how we're gonna assemble it again. Or at the very least, pull the AC lines. I didn't drain the AC. I don't have a really good reason why, other than if we run AC in this when I put the car back together, now I don't have to spend $20 to fill it back up. Please don't get stuck. Well, we did it. And what's our reward for finishing up the job? Doing it all again. I'm really hoping that at least the disassembly side of the Demon goes a little quicker. I don't have a perfect process, but we're gonna go with the dashboard first, then we'll do the rear harness, then we'll do the same thing we did on the gray car, front harness and engine harness. And hey, I don't know if the whole thing's gonna go smoother, but when you pull the glove box off and that's your view instead of a massive HVAC unit, yeah, at least the dashboard, we're in for a decent time on that.
Why does it smell like bacon?
So just to clarify here, just so we're all on the same page.
You put bacon on the roof of this car.
We have video proof of you doing it.
Well, excuse? That was your idea!
In its previous liquid form, bacon grease managed to work its way to the inside of the car. To be fair, it wasn't my idea so much as I said, you know what would be funny? I know we're working in an actual salvage yard right now, but this was just some hack version of the Mopar assembly line. This is a lot. A lot.
I'm kind of afraid that people are going to start thinking that we gonna steal Hellcat and stuff like that.
Well, if we could steal them, we'd probably be able to get that one to run and we wouldn't have had to do all this.
But now we know all the electronics.
Do we? Do we? Yeah, I don't know who put this thing together, but it's coming apart really easily. I know typically in the car world, it's generally a good thing to have all the little wire looms clipped into where they should be. In this case though, it's working in our favor that the car's been apart before, and I don't know if apart's the right word, burned to the ground. Either way, it's taken us half the time as it did on the gray car. Not only is the dash out, but the rear harness is ready to come out too. This is the one piece of wiring in this car that can actually stay. The giant pile on the floor continues to grow.
Can't believe that we have almost $40,000 just on wires.
That is not at all how that math works. There's still a lot of money in that car over there. It's not 40,000.
Is it functional?
It might be $40,000 in cables. Either way, now that we got it out, the harnesses aren't super different visually. It's once you start looking at the modules, that's where you can see some changes. This is that RF hub, and this is the remote start module that we don't have on the manuals. The casing of the manual hub does physically have these two slots to plug something in there, but the internals are supposedly different along with the wiring going to it, which is why the shop that I tried to have assist on this ran these blue cables from all the way back here at the RF hub up to the clutch switch. Obviously it didn't work, but hey, it was worth a try. And then on the inside of the car, you can see the remnants of the relay setup they did to try to make the clutch switch work. Other than that stuff, the rest of the differences we found are completely package related. These are the Alpine speakers, and these are the Harman Kardon speakers that go in the same location, so we're definitely going to have to swap those. I don't know if they'd plug in. Yeah, the physical plugs aren't even the same, so we're gonna have to swap all that. And it's stuff like that that makes me think we have to switch a lot. The climate control, for example, it looks the same, but there's a part number difference. Is it gonna work if we just try to use the one from the 2020? I don't think so. Either way, I kinda don't wanna risk it. The last thing I wanna do here is install all this stuff and then have to troubleshoot, which I'm sure we're gonna have to do anyway, but I don't want it to be my fault. Now, if we pull one more harness out of the Demon, I have a feeling we're not gonna be able to walk around the shop, so I think I'm gonna install the rear harness before I go any further. I think this is gonna help us stay straight and organized while we're rewiring the Demon 2, but if I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the real reason I wanna do this is I've been ripping stuff apart for 3 days now, and I just wanna fucking install something.
You scratched the bumper. Oh.
We can officially cross the rear harness off the list. Now, I didn't go and put every single wire tie in. I didn't install things like the speakers. I didn't want to go full tilt with it until we're sure it's going to crank. Because if it doesn't crank, it's going to get lit on fire again. And this time it's not coming back. But I guess we'll save the threats for later because things are going fine as of now. We do have some good news. The fuel pump connector that I was kind of concerned about, it fits. So there's 2 pumps in here. There's only wiring for one, but having the correct connector is going to make it significantly easier to power that second pump. Everything else is plug and play as you would imagine. We do have stuff like the seat connectors, the center console, all the connectors that connect to that front harness, but we'll plug those in once those parts are installed. I'm still counting it, harness 1 of 4 down. Now, if you happen to be a math professional such as myself, you know that 1 out of 4 is 25% of the way done, but that's not really how it's gonna work here. We knocked out the easy harness. Now we have to deal with this. And I can't say that I'm looking forward to doing this for the 2nd time in 2 days.
It's gonna be fun, right?
No, it's not fun. Speaking of which, what'd you get me for Christmas? You got me that?
What do you mean? You saw all this?
I have an idea.
Well, you're welcome.
I got an idea.
What?
For Christmas, you swapped these harnesses.
No,
I'll sit here and watch.
no, I'm good. I can't wait to see the people's reaction about what you did to that car. You're gonna be in trouble. By the record, it wasn't my idea. I tried to save it, so...
Turns out for Christmas, he's throwing me under the bus.
It's true.
Anyway, about that time. I know in this very moment, this exact moment in time, probably doesn't look like it's going well, but it is. There's so much room not having these HVAC lines back here. And I'll prove it to you in 3, 2, 1, there. Okay, the front harness is like 90% out. I have to unbolt it from the firewall. Some genius put through bolts on it. I have no clue why anybody would do that, so we have to reach around to the inside and undo that. Other than that, I think we can rip it out.
Why does it smell like gas here?
So, even without the working harness, it did have fuel pressure. And if you're wondering how I know that, it's because when I disconnected the line, it visually showed me that it had fuel pressure. Visually showed me. Come on. One connector gets caught in the ABS lines. There we go. One more harness out. As for what's next, I guess we have to pull an engine harness. And again, as I learned on that car, it's probably the least fun. The part that really gets me about the engine harness is that it's only hard because of one single connector. Everything else, it's off. This took 30 minutes max, but the single luma wiring that has heat shrouding on it goes down behind the alternator to 2 connectors, one of which is the oil pressure sensor that you can't get to without pulling the alternator. There's a 0% chance I'm gonna be able to show you guys on the one in the car, so I'm gonna show you on one in the showroom. There's an idler pulley, there's our alternator, and there's our connector. The other sensor that comes off that loom is this one here. This one's easily accessible from the bottom when you're doing the alternator stuff anyway. Dodge engineers missed it by that much. One single loom is the only reason this isn't falling out of the car. And yes, I can do things like this, lay a wiring harness over my fender because it's burnt. It's fine. Now I should note, I'm only venting because I'm a serviceability enthusiast, if you will. This go around, we have to take the alternator off anyway for a different reason. All right, stay with me here, guys, while I try to get this lower alternator bracket off. At some point between 2018 and 2020, Dodge, for whatever reason, decided to change the design of the oil pressure or oil temperature switch. I'm still not sure which one. The Demon engine's in 2018, so it had the big connector. When I swapped to this 2020 red-eye harness, I had to switch to the smaller connector. We're officially dewired. Unwired, dewired. Dewired, yeah. Now there's an old saying that I'm really fond of. If you don't have the right tool, or in this case, can't fit the right tool, you make one. Come on. There we are. New style sensor, old style sensor. And I gotta admit, I was wrong about this. I thought it was gonna be a pain, but thanks to the sacrifice of this Craftsman wrench, it was actually pretty easy. The two engine harnesses are fairly similar. The automatic one has just this one big singular connector for the valve body on the transmission. But other than that, and that one oil pressure sensor connector, the only other difference is this. It's the connector for the inner chiller system that the Red Eye uses. The one on this particular harness, though, somebody broke. There we go. The engine harness is down. I was a little concerned we were gonna run into some, I don't know, connector differences. I found some weird stuff on the rest of the car. There's a line that runs parallel with the fuel filler neck. It has some sensor on it, and it's completely different than the one that was on the gray Hellcat. But no, everything was the same. It was a really easy install. The only minor differences is on the 2020, the Red Eye, there was some emissions unit up here, which we no longer have, so we can pull this bracket and get rid of that as well. Now, as for what's next, we're gonna do the front chassis harness, but I think we're gonna lay the section that goes through the firewall first, and then put the dashboard in before I finish up the front section. You know, while I still got some muscle here to help me put the dashboard in.
I'm going home. See ya. Well, Christmas, right?
It's not Christmas yet, buddy. Now that we're on the last harness, this is where the nervousness is starting to set in. What if it doesn't crank?
Now I sound like a negative person around here, you know?
No, I'm not negative.
Okay.
It's gonna crank, but what if it doesn't? That firewall flexes a lot when you try to put a grommet through it. Can't imagine why. Now, I know earlier I was bragging about how nice it was to take a dashboard out in one piece like this. There is a downside to this, and I'm sure you've already figured out what it is. Fortunately, we brought in some extra muscle. The strongest person in the shop, me, and then these two guys will help too.
All right, so like I'm on my hook.
Steering column is just not through. Whoa!
You all right?
Yeah.
That seems better. There you go.
Oh, man, you put the wrong dash.
You know, I knew we didn't, but for a split second, just hearing those words. Now that the dash is in, we just gotta slap some wires together. We have to connect the dash harness to the rear harness and the front harness. We have to finish doing this harness, and we're pretty much at the finish line. Now, Fernando, you're not gonna be here when we crank this for the first time.
Nah,
you're gonna miss out.
Yeah.
Well, what's your guess? Does it crank on the first try, or did we forget something? Do we have to troubleshoot? I'm going with the fact that we just start it, and it's good.
Let's have some faith. It's gonna
Really?
start.
For
Yes,
once?
it's gonna, yeah.
Oh, we're screwed now. We are screwed. What's the verdict? Crank it first try or no?
No, this thing's never gonna run again.
Hold on. There's an important distinction there. It's definitely not going to be running, but we're just working on cranking.
It might crank.
It will crank.
It's not gonna run.
It will crank, and then next episode, it will probably run. As far as I know, which, to be clear, isn't very far when it comes to Dodge stuff, I think that's well established at this point. We've connected everything we need to connect to be able to crank it. And as you can probably tell by this just horrendous looking engine bay in front of you, I only connected the essentials. I didn't want to go all out until we know it's gonna work. This way we save a little time if we have to rip it back out. The fuse box isn't mounted, neither is the ECU. None of the trivial connectors are connected. It's just the big stuff in every piece of the CAN bus network. And it's pretty much the same deal with the interior. I didn't bother with unimportant stuff like little switches and, you know, seats, but I did do the center console. I don't know if that climate control unit's gonna cause a problem. Now, there's still 1,000 reasons why this might not work. Maybe one of the parts we didn't connect needs to be connected. Maybe one of the parts we didn't change, like say the ABS pump being from a different car, causes an issue. Or maybe we even try it for the first time without connecting power to the main fuse box. I don't know who would do that last one though. Hey, press clutch pedal, not brake pedal. We're on to something here. You know, putting seats in it would have probably been a good idea. But hey, it is what it is at this point. All right. The fobs work and the doors actually lock. It flashed the lights before, but it wouldn't do the doors. And that's a big deal because once we got the car back after having that wiring modification, it didn't even do that. Never have I been so nervous to press a button in my life. The gauge cluster's lit up like it should be. Did we just rip the Band-Aid off? Did we just do it? I mean, we have to, right? Clutch is in. Yes! Ah, there we go. I've never been so happy to hear something turn over one single time. Fucking right. Oh my God. Let's do it again. Sick. Absolutely sick. We did it. We finally did it. I don't know that this is the way I wanted this to ultimately work out, where we had to buy another car to finish this one. But at this point, it's been so long, I just don't care. I'm just happy it got done. Far and away, this is the biggest milestone we've hit to date with this car. But even with this done, we can't pretend like this build's anywhere close to finish. The car's an absolute disaster. You saw what the interior looks like, the engine bay, the wiring. I know it cranks, but we have a whole nother week of work ahead of us to try to get it to run, not to mention drive. This build's been an absolute marathon, not only for me, but for you guys. The support you've shown throughout this whole thing, it's never lost on me. I appreciate it so much. It's a massive source of motivation for me, and it makes me want to buy and build even more cars, but for now, it really just makes me want to finish this for all our sakes. So with that said, I guess the only thing left to do is, oh, that's right. Sell you guys some stickers. Yeah, hit you with the old crossover there, huh? I don't think it's any secret at this point that I am absolutely horrendous at doing merch. Even when I do manage to make something, I forget to mention it till the end of the video. I'm pretty positive that's not the way you're supposed to do this, but hey. You guys rarely let me forget how much I'm slacking with this kind of stuff, so I took a few hours, drew up something cool. I hope you guys like it. I'll have a link in the description. If you want to purchase this sticker pack, I guess we'll call it the Not a Demon pack. There we are. There's my terrible sales pitch. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider this your formal invitation to stick around and watch another one. It's about to pop up on the screen sometime, probably right now.
Couple hours ago, we driving this thing, having fun, and now,
Hate these locks. They're f***ing good for nothing. Why do you need to lock a connector that nobody's ever going to touch on?
how your back's feeling?
How do you think, how does it look like somebody that's been in this position for 2 days' back would feel?
It sucks.
Yeah.
Try to film?
Success! Great success!
So far away.
God, I'm getting old.